Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Bioscience Lessons. Today we are going to discuss about previous year question paper from CSI Net regarding topic glucose transporter. If you have not watched my previous video on glucose transporter, do watch it, then come to this video, it will be helpful for you. So first question, the diagram in an intestinal epithelial cell performing the absorption of dietary monosaccharide from the dietary carbohydrate ingested, which one of the following combination of transporter ABC in the diagram and the transported monosaccharide is correct. So they have given diagram of intestinal epithelial cell and they asked about ABC, which are transporter of monosaccharide. So they asked about the name. So if you have studied glucose transporter, fructose is transported by GLUT5. It works by the process of facilitated diffusion, and this glucose is transported along with the sodium in the same direction by the transporter SGLT1, that is sodium dependent glucose transporter, and this work by the process of secondary active transport. And from the enterocyte, that is intestinal epithelial cell, glucose and fructose are moved out into the blood by the GLUT2 transport molecule, and this work by the process of facilitated diffusion. So if you see the options, first option is correct. A is GLUT5, B is SGLT1 and C is GLUT2. Next question, the transport of fructose in the enterocyte is mediated by, we have seen in previous question, transport of fructose is done by GLUT5. Next question, absorbed monosaccharide in intestinal epithelial cell exit via which one of the following transporter? This question came recently in CSIR and the answer is GLUT2. If you have seen this first question, you can see this GLUT2, it is involved in transport of glucose and fructose out of intestine into the blood. Next question, insulin increases facilitated diffusion of glucose in muscle cells by, if you see this diagram, suppose this is muscle cell, then this is GLUT4 which is present inside the vesicle, and this is the insulin receptor. When insulin comes and bind, signaling process will start and it will cause the fusion of vesicle with the membrane, and then GLUT4 will be translocated into the cell membrane, and this helping transport of glucose inside the cell. First option is phosphorylation of glucose transporter. No, there is no phosphorylation of glucose transporter. Next is translocation of glucose transporter containing endosome into the cell membrane. This is correct. We have seen in the previous diagram that when insulin comes and bind to the insulin receptor, then vesicle containing the glucose transporter will be translocated to the cell membrane, and this help in the glucose transport. So this B option is correct. Next, a patient comes to the hospital complaining of vomiting and diarrhea. The doctor suggested that the patient take glucose and electrolyte solution orally. Which one of the following membrane protein is likely to be involved in rehydrating the patient? So in this question, it is given that a patient is having diarrhea and vomiting, and the doctor has suggested glucose and electrolyte solution. This electrolyte will contain sodium and chloride. So glucose will transport along with sodium in the intestinal epithelial cell by help of SGLT. You can see this diagram. This is SGLT which is present in the lumen of intestine, and this glucose moves along with the sodium. Next question, which of the following statement regarding membrane transport is false? So they are asking wrong answer. If you see the third option, sugars such as glucose are always transported by active transport rather than facilitated diffusion. But we have seen that GLUT works by the process of facilitated diffusion, so it is a wrong answer. It's not always by active transport, facilitated diffusion is also involved. Next question, two columns are given and we have to do match the following. First column, different parts of the renal tubule like proxy PCT, loop of Henle, distal tubule, collecting tubule, it's given, and in column B different types of transporters are given, so we have to match the following. If you see the third option, it is written sodium glucose symporter, that it is talking about SGLT2. This SGLT2 is present in the proximal tubule of the nephron, and so A is matched with 3. So if you see the first option, A is matched with 3, and other than this all are different, so first option is correct. So this is the diagram of nephron, and this is glomerulus, this is proximal tubule lumen, and here SGLT2 is present. Next question. A diabetes patient has high blood glucose level due to reduced entry of glucose in various peripheral tissues in addition to other causes. There is no problem of glucose absorption. However, in the small intestine of this patient, the following statements are put forward to explain the observation. They are asking about the incorrect statement. First option, glucose is transported into the cells of muscle by glucose transporter GLUTs, which are influenced by the insulin receptor activation. This is correct, because when insulin bind to the insulin receptor in the muscle cells, then GLUT4 will be translocated into the cell membrane and helps in glucose transport. So this is correct. Glucose transport into enterocyte is mediated by SGLT, which are not dependent on insulin. This is also correct. SGLT is not dependent on insulin, and this glucose is transported into the enterocyte by SGLT, which works on secondary active transport process. Next, glucose molecules are transported into small intestine by a facilitated diffusion. This is wrong. This option is wrong because glucose enter into the small intestine through SGLT1, and this works by the process of secondary active transport, not by facilitated diffusion. The secondary active transport of glucose occurs in muscles. In muscles, GLUT4 is involved. Secondary active transport is wrong. This GLUT4 works by the process of facilitated diffusion. So C and D are wrong. So answer is 4 option. Next question. The intestinal absorption of glucose is impaired by use of uabine, which is an inhibitor of sodium potassium ATPase. Indicate the correct explanation. So what is given in question is uabine is an inhibitor of sodium potassium pump. So this is the sodium potassium pump, and this uabine will inhibit this sodium potassium pump. Because of this, sodium will not move outside the cell, and because of this, sodium concentration goes high, and when sodium concentration is already high inside the cell, so SGLT will not move sodium from the outside into the cell, and due to this, glucose will also not move inside the cell, and due to this, glucose absorption is impaired. Third option, it is given the inhibitor has blocked the transport of sodium from the epithelial cell to the interstitial space. So this is correct. That's it for the video. Thank you very much.